Maybe you can leave the game on to just turn down the volume.
Yeah, we'll be paying attention to you then.
That's intensity.
Spoiler alert, there's no more goals.
It's just yellow cards and VAR and all that stuff. Alright, but welcome to Beyond Baroque Literary Arts Center. I want to welcome you to the Wanacomic Theater, and I want to welcome you to Poetry Like Fútbol is for Everyone. And we'll be hearing from writers writing about football through short stories, nonfiction, and poetry. And we are an organization that is proud to cultivate new writing, present contemporary literature and art, and build a diverse community of poets, writers, and artists. I'd like to acknowledge our presence on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Tonga peoples. We acknowledge the wrong done to these peoples through settler colonialism and genocidal practices. And as a literary arts organization, we are committed to uplifting their communities, stories, and cultures. And Beyond Baroque itself is a place dedicated to the possibilities of language. It was founded in 1968 by George Jerry Smith. And this building first served as the original Venice City Hall. And since the late 70s, it has been a home for artists and writers. For our weekly programming series, we will be hosting authors Charles Harper Webb, Ray M. Rodriguez, who will be reading with Lornelli Cervantes, as well. That's happening tomorrow. And next week, we'll be hosting poet Eve Wood and a poetry and blues night with ML Liebler, who will be reading from his new memoir, Notes from a Revolutionary Poet, and that would be a reading between Detroit poets and LA poets with some backing music by blues musicians. And to close out the month, we will be celebrating Michelle Bidding's a new collection, A Ruined Beauty. She will be reading with former LA Poet Laureate Lynn Thompson and poet out of town from New Mexico, James Meets. And after that, we'll be taking a break from programming during the month of August, but we will be back for our fall season in September. We'll be stacked with events, and if you follow us on social media, you'll also see a few updates that will be pertaining to our website. But the big event that we have in July is actually our fundraiser, which is the Salsa Sabor and Sonnets. Will be a poetry and salsa fundraiser. It's actually being led by our board president, Vivek Resto, and other board members that include Cynthia Alessandra Briano. And we will be having Bad Bunny Room, which will be the one on the theater right here, and maybe the Celia Cruz dance floor. So it will be, just a night to have fun, but also raise funds for this critical organization that serves the literary community. And I don't think I've ever seen a poetry and salsa event anywhere in the world. So this is one of a kind event, and I'm glad that it's happening here, that we are able to host it. If you don't know how to dance, that shouldn't be a deterrent at all, because there are lessons. We are also partnering with other organizations like Queerchata and I think Dance University. So there is going to be instructions and a little bit of just practicing before you get to the real deal and dance the night away. So more info is already available online for that, and you can buy tickets or help us spread the word. And if you'd like to support Beyond Baroque further, you can become a member. Memberships start at $75 with discount prices available to students. And by becoming a member, you get access to events for free, discounts on our bookstore, as well as our original merch. Big thank you to the Beyond Baroque team. We have Eric Albert in the booth handling the tag for the live stream for this event, and Executive Director Jimmy Vega, Genesis Perez in the bookstore with Anika Dueñas. After the program, we will be doing some book signing we have a lot of titles from Express, from Yago Cura, Romeo Guzmán, Jose Oseguera, and the rest of the authors that will be presenting tonight. So, yeah, we are in this cycle of football that we see every 4 years. I was rooting for Mexico, of course, and that was just such a devastatingly beautiful game that happened last Sunday. But all these games have been very intense. But it would be very interesting to hear from the takes from different Latinx poets and writers that will be sharing a few words tonight, and just their perspective on the game itself, but all the political context surrounding this game that is just played all over the world. So to say more about it, let's give a round of applause to the main curator, organizer, publisher of Express, Yago Cura.
Hola, hello. Thank you so much. This is such a wonderful event. I wanted to thank first off Beyond Baroque. I wanted to thank Jimmy Vega, Ivan Salinas, Genesis Perez. Folks, it's very clear. I'm not from LA. This has been kind of like a second home. When I first moved here, I lived in Mar Vista, and I used to run a Latin American poetry workshop here. So this space means a lot to me. The bookstore means a lot to me, and the changes that have taken place in this organization mean a lot to me because I see it really evolving and progressing. And so I'm just very grateful for the opportunity to just come up here and do this. I just wanted to say a couple of things. I've played soccer with most of the people in here, and I think they would all agree I'm probably the worst player here. Let me tell you why. And it's because I learn from all of the people that I play with. So, for example, Dan has taught me so much about soccer. Hector, when we go, and Andy was one time where I was playing with Andy and I brought down a ball with these little micro touches, and he's like, oh, I see what you doing with those micro touches? He was talking smack to me because he was like, I see skill, recognize skill. So it was always a nice moment, and it's always and folks, I'm just gonna reiterate. The group I play with, the score is always 2-2, and there's no slide tackling, so I know I'm gonna be at work on Monday. And it's really about playing to people's skill level and really learning. I tried to stay away from soccer my whole life. My parents were Argentine, so I thought, man, the farthest away from soccer is a skateboard. So that's how I grew up mostly. But you always kind of find your way back to things. So the people that I asked to read tonight have a personal stake in the politics of football. They have a personal stake in the narration of how important football is in their lives, even if they're not good at it necessarily, right? Because I feel like that's the reason to want to do something. When I was a teacher, I wanted to be a teacher, not because I wanted to be good, but because it kept me always wanting to be a better teacher, right? And so if we apply that to just humanness, right, being human and just being on this lovely planet and then playing this beautiful game with each other, this kind of reading becomes very self-evident. So I just wanted to say that I wanted to start off and just say that this is all coming from a place of love. Obviously, we are all hinchas from different squads, right? You don't want to know who I rep, so don't ask. But I guess the point is it really doesn't matter is because I've learned. Literally, George Sánchez-Tello kept me out of jail one night about a soccer game. And so, everyone here my wife was 6 months pregnant. I would have gotten divorced. There's no way. She wouldn't have bailed me out. So I owe everyone here, including Jennifer Doyle too, such a large debt. So thank you for teaching me, and Romeo Guzmán, thank you for teaching me how to think about the game differently, how to envision a different kind of game. Like, we don't have to play by, like just the old rules and the really rules that aren't really equitable. We can make a room and make a space for everyone, including old dogs like myself, to learn new tricks. With that said, is it okay? I just wanted to kind of give that shout out. We're going to start right now. I appreciate you coming through. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Alright, let's welcome our first teacher, Emmanuel Ortiz, who's a Chicano, Puerto Rican, Irish American community organizer and poet. He's a founding member of the Minnesota-based Latinx Writers Poets Collective Palabristas, Latinx Word Slingers, founded in 2002, and long ago authored 2 chapbooks of poems. He has been playing football with the left-wing Futbolistas network since 2005, and is currently scheming up an anthology of poetry about football and a football film festival. Please welcome Emmanuel Ortiz.
My name. Thank you everybody for coming out tonight. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you, Yago and Romeo and Yambaro for bringing this all together, putting this event together. We're obviously in the midst of the World Cup. We all love football. We all hate FIFA. In football, you're not allowed to start off in the game and then sub out and come back in. But in poetry, you can do that. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to introduce a different poet who's not on the lineup to read a poem in my proxy. I'm going to give up some of my time. Louis Resto is an award-winning poet, a mother of 3 revolutionary humans, and a middle school English teacher. She was born in Aguas Buenas, Puerto Rico, and is proudly raised in the Bronx, New York. You'll know that if she's ever gotten mad at you. She is a Canto Mundo and a Macondo Fellow. Her books of poetry include Unfinished Portrait, published in 2008, and Ascension, 2013, both published by Tia Chucha Press, as well as Living on Islands Not Found on Maps, published by Flower Song Press, 2022. Her work has been mentioned in the LA Times and Ms. Magazine, and her work has been published in North American Review. Resto is an associate editor of Tia Chucha's Press, and she serves as the chair of the board right here at Beyond Baroque. She lives in the San Gabriel Valley in Los Angeles, and she threatened me with bodily harm if I didn't give her a chance to read.
Hey, hey.
Well, some of them actually. So I don't play soccer, but over the course of the past year and a half, I have been immersed in a lot of soccer. Being Puerto Rican now, that is not something that we play in Puerto Rico. It's more about baseball and basketball and boxing. But, being with Emmanuel for the past year and a half definitely has brought me into this community. And honestly, it's really awesome. So many people, I've met so many beautiful people because of him. Because of watching them play soccer, I just watch a lot. And one day they keep threatening that you're going to play one day. And I'm like, no. So he inspired this poem, and I want to share this with you. This is my one football poem I told Yago about. So Yago, you've seen this poem. It's called "The Poet Explains the Rules of Football to Another Poet." Para Emmanuel Ortiz. Plucking mangoes off the trees planted in the shared land of our great-grandmothers, the tone of your voice changes when you remind me it's not soccer, it's football. I try to follow the recap from yesterday's game as you recreate the winning play, shuffling a fallen droop between your feet. Your arm stretches to the farthest branch and snaps a chosen stone fruit with ease, as if knowing which one is the sweetest by versus bringing it close to the top of your lip like I do, inhaling its ripeness from the rind. With my childlike imagination, the yellow and red ones become violation cards, held by our great-grandmothers for the malcriadas of our grandfathers. You speak of added time, defenders, forwards, keepers, midfielders, corner kicks, as I and the analogous colors of mangoes hang on every word. Holding your favorite mango like a soccer ball with care and precision, you begin to slice its peel for us to eat, exposing the bright orange pulp. And I tell you, as the fruit's juices drip down your arm, its center bare and vulnerable to our appetites, that the flesh on either side of the pit are often called cheeks, and you, as if by intuition, kiss mine.
There than the 4 minutes I would have given you. I have two poems for you tonight. The first one is haiku that I would have written had Mexico beaten England. It's a haiku. So with this one, Yago and I were talking about how you don't ever explain a poem. I have to tell you that I had a really moral or ethical dilemma with this, even as I wrote the very first word. And that is fireworks 2 syllables or 3? I went with 3. Fireworks explode, Mexicans celebrando 5 de July. This next poem is called Watching Celtic FC with my favorite Celtic FC fan at his favorite Celtic FC supporters club for England. Between the witching hour and the blue hour of a spring Sunday morning, before the sun turns the sky a paler shade of the hue of Huns, before the corner donut shop opens its doors, but not before the proprietors awaken as they do every morning in darkness, before the masses fill the churches with their sins and sacraments, before the coyotes have retreated to their hideouts, before their domesticated cousins fill the dog park airs with barking, obnoxious or endearing depending on your relationship to the dog and its owner. Before the chatter of the reality show humans, before the beaches crawl to life with surfers, sunbathers, selfie takers, runners, but never before the sea. We wake and rise intently as the nearby tide, though not as steady as we used to be, sleepy-eyed but steely committed to the cause, leaving lovers in restful repose, children curled comfortably under covers. We don the uniforms quickly, quietly, the hoops we hope will bring us fortune. At this still dark hour, the 405 from Long Beach to Santa Monica is a breeze, a deep dark drag strip, traffic thin as an Indiana highway at rush hour. This, the only time white Teslas, usually thick as stormtroopers on the Death Star, don't number at least 1 per mile, maybe more. I count them as you listen to your upteenth podcast of the week. Randy's Donuts is a beacon in the wee hours of morning, light radiating more brightly than the employees' faces, I assure you. Never the first, never the last, never the furthest traveled, we come bearing glazed gifts like altar boys with a dozen Eucharists for the assembled apostles of Trip Pub, 5,120 miles from paradise. And for the barkeep, his steaming cardboarded caffeination. A few wins and this could become a costly superstition. The pub is dimly lit but abuzz with bodies. The congregation of devotees spills in, a steady stream, handshakes and salutations, a nervous bravado before each match like a boxer in the ring. Hearty debates over the lineup, the strength of the opponent, the manager's tactics, the board's spending or lack thereof, and the thick accents of East End Glasgow and West Coast Yanks. The match turns all eyes to the 3 pixelated panels on the wall, mere images of each other, a holy trinity. This is as close to Sunday Mass as we'll ever willfully wander. Between shouts, curses, cheers, groans, chants, the donuts are devoured, the coffee and Guinness down. We sing the praises of the match heroes, curse the day the scapegoats were born. Here, every throat knows every song, croons them all like a colony of coyotes. I, the lone transient, pretend to howl along. And when the match is over, still before the masses fill the churches with their sins and sacraments, win, lose, or draw, giddy conquerors or grumpy curmudgeons, we stumble out into the still sleepy city named for Algeria's patron saint of patience, preservation, and prayer. Our sins are forgiven, our heathen souls cleansed, the sky above us a different shade of blue, but like the ocean, forever and indifferent pass we by. Thank you.
Our couple right here. Thank you for that. Each Feature also has to give us their best foul phase, like 5-star phase, or the best goal celebration in slow mo. After a tap, those have been the best, by the way. So I'm hoping to see that from Jennifer Doyle. Writes about art, sports, and sex, and sometimes all at once. She's written about soccer in Los Angeles, the women's game, and is currently writing Sex Text, a book about the category of women's sports. She lives in LA and teaches at UC Riverside. She's also an art writer, curator, and is president of the board of directors at Human Resources Los Angeles, an interdisciplinary art space in Chinatown. Please welcome Jennifer Doyle.
I teach sports stuff, and so I'm at high risk of going into professor mode, which is like an hour and 20 minutes. So I'm just putting a timer here for myself. Let's see if that works. I just one thing I wanted to say is that I've been really angry at the World Cup, and I'm in a space in my life where I'm watching it, but I'm doing it while doing elder care. And that's an experience of a lot of people who are following the World Cup, is that maybe you could watch it in its entirety, and in another time in your life, you can't, and feel highly attuned to how absolutely greedy it is. Anyway, so I've pulled writing from, I wrote a blog from 2007 to 2013 called From a Left Wing, and then have another that is very much like inactive called The Sports Spectacle. And so I pulled writing off of that and things that were kind of dialed into the poetics of the sport. So this is called, and they're pretty short. So this is from 2010, and it's written during the South Africa World Cup. And it's called Unfeeling Cheated. And I'm kind of editing as I'm reading. Because we live with the myth regarding the myth of the level playing field in sports, we cry loudly when that illusion is shattered. Sport culture seems to be the one place where we can declare that we were robbed, that our team was cheated, that the game wasn't fair, and we don't actually come off as bitter or resentful. This sort of anger at being kept out of the World Cup finals by someone's handball, Thierry Henry, thank you very much, France kept out Ireland, I still remember, or being cheated out of 3 points awarded to a win by a rogue referee. This is all perfectly allowed in sports. This a sense of injustice is in fact in sport nursed into an art. But try complaining loudly about being denied a promotion or being paid less than the guy hired after you. It's hard to make a heroic complaint about a social slight or feeling like you've been given a raw deal in the financial structure of your mortgage. Soccer is a dialogic sport. There's a book, an amazing sociological text called Games and Sport in Everyday Life, and I highly recommend it. Soccer is a dialogic sport. It is shaped by opposition and struggle, by action and counteraction. There are no absolutes in these kinds of sports. The things that make for a great match, for example, are not the same things that would make for a great race. A race is structured by a standard measurement of time, as well as by the idea of absolute performance, the fastest human. But a match is measured by the quality of the conversation. Opponents will sink and rise to each other's level. Every fan athlete knows this experience. A match may be halting and uneventful or lopsided and boring because the two sides never connect in play. Very talented, organized, and competitive sides, they're not always open to talk. Spain played, this is from 2014, by the way, so this is how I respond to games. Spain played like a team that was tired of talking, a team that had been the life of the party for far too many years and now just wants a quiet night in once in a while. England and Portugal gave their own versions of this kind of performance. Their play has been characterized by a weary narcissism. They are not tired of the party, they are tired of themselves. Contrast that disengagement with Germany, France, Ghana, Chile, or Colombia. It's no wonder that Germany and Ghana's match was so tremendous. The two play with an interest in the opposition. No gesture is unremarked upon. Their conversation was fluent and elegant. Each side had the capacity for a certain brutality. Each had the capacity to engage and diffuse the other's attack. Like Dorothy Parker and Gore Vidal going at it, trading bars. Portugal and the US, they gave us a good dialogue, but not a great one. The US on a good day will rise to an opponent's level, but Portugal wasn't interested in helping them along. So Portugal exploited defensive errors and did little more than that. Yes, Ronaldo, when left completely alone, will send in a perfect cross to just the right person. In this case, it was a witty remark made on the way out the door to suggest the fun we might have had if he wasn't so utterly bored by us and the rest of the world. The US was a more entertaining guest. One got the sense that they were playing through fear and disorientation, glad to be at the table, not quite sure what they were supposed to say and do. Every now and again, though, they'd reach across the table to fill their wine glass, wash the anxiety down, and throw themselves into the fray. I wish they'd had that tournament this year, but they did not. All right, I'll read you, let's see, I think one more. I have another one short, so. Okay, so this one has a quote. If you watch 2014 tournament, you'll know from the quote exactly what I'm talking about. This is from Sigmund Freud. The cannibal, as we know, has a devouring affection for his enemies and only devours people of whom he is fond. Luis Suarez's fighting is a tactic. Sorry, so many people. I'm in a room of people who know. Sorry for those of you who don't. So, so his biting, right? It's an infantile and intimate aggression. The bite is both childlike and animal-like. The bite is the impulse of the cannibal, a figure, the colonial expression of desire and fear as a fantasy of eating and being eaten by the other. All sports play with social structures, and a dialogic team sport like soccer plays with a social contract, the founding agreement struck between and within communities which allow those communities to exist in a more or less stable order. The laws of the game, which is what the rules are called by FIFA, they don't just regulate a match. They are a part of the game, meaning debate about offside, goal line technology, replay, the sense that the subjective nature of the referee's calls is actually a necessary to the game's spirit, and that's been a subject of a lot of discussion in this tournament. One of the agreements made, and I'm like, oh, there's a whole essay just in that in this point. One of the agreements that gets made between teams, players, referees, and spectators involves the promise not to harm each other, a willingness to address and to prevent injury. When you are playing an opponent who violates the agreement intensely and deliberately, it throws you completely out of the organizing structures of play. It is no longer play. The victim of this violence is momentarily exiled with the offender from the social order. A game that plays with violence, and football does, is only possible if all of its participants resist that impulse to brutality. Results hinge on how teams fare up under the stress and strain of the full 90 minutes of the match. Deciding goals are scored in the 89th, 90th, 94th minute by teams with the capacity to exploit a moment of distraction and error made from weariness. In this case, a goal was scored by a team that was left bewildered. A goal was scored against a team that was left bewildered. Suarez has made an art of creating this state of confusion. Team management know perfectly well that if he can score a goal, he can also goad and shock and disgust an opponent in a campaign to force them to surrender not the match, but the game itself. And then I'll read just one more. So, and this is Brazil's loss to Germany, 2014. Yeah. The World Cup is an intensely produced spectacle. Each goal is a world-defining event. The televisual event audience watching from home, thousands of miles from the stadium, luxuriates in the experience of proximity to the game. We race down the pitch behind an attack. We are inside the goal as the ball hits the back of the net. Players rush across the field to celebrate. A camera suspended from wires flies behind and above them like a bird. Suddenly, we're parachuted into the celebratory huddle. We're as close to the players' ecstasy as they are to each other. Cut to views of jubilant crowds watching in public parks and in bars across the country. A goal yields a surplus of joy. But oh, when the event goes sour. A goal is only pleasurable in an economy of scarcity. In a match like today's, in which a team is simply annihilated, a surplus of goals ruins the story. One side takes what it wants, and the other is a hapless victim. There is no suspense. There is no release. First, there is only shock, and then shame. We settle into the grim situation. Perhaps a cold curiosity takes over. A team knows that it is lost, and there are still 70 minutes to play. We watch the rest of the match bearing witness to the humanity of the losing side. A realism shadows the broadcast. It is the shadow of an alternate world to the World Cup, the shadow cast by the world in which we actually live. David Luiz, in a post-match interview, cries openly. The women in Emile Zola's novels grow more beautiful as they are beaten by their lovers. Something about this scene reminds me of this. Through his tears, Luiz apologizes. He, quote, wanted to bring joy to the people who suffer so much, end quote. He and his team failed. Of course they did. Not even the people running this event, the showrunners, believe that the success or the failure of the World Cup rides on any single team's performance, or even that it will be measured by the quality of the spectator's pleasure. It will be measured by the seamlessness of the production and the direction of capital flow. As Luiz cries, he and his teammates are carried away by the tide.
Wow.
Overtime is so loud. For our next author, we have Romeo Guzmán, who's launched a public history project dedicated to building an archive of soccer in the San Joaquin Valley. Written essays that weave together family history, migration, and the growth of the game in Southern California, and published football fiction. Guzmán has also organized tournaments that combine popular education and sport in support of refugees and Palestine. He coaches girls and is the author of the chapbook Portuguese. Round of applause for Guzmán.
I can attest to the fact that Yago is a much, much better writer than he is a player. Which is a way that I'm going to introduce myself, which is I am definitely a much better writer than I am a fiction writer, or the player than I am a fiction writer. So I appreciate you all listening to these words. I'm actually a historian, so I'm really sort of out, like I'm playing on the right side and I'm a left-footed guy, right? So I really do appreciate folks listening. We were given 10 minutes, which seems like 1 minute short, right? We should be given 11 minutes. So I'm going to try to keep it between 10 and 11. The title of this piece is called Rafa and Los Poetas. Zapotlán from La Puente did something they had never done after a Sunday league game. It was uncomfortable, foreign even, but they obeyed their captain, their number 10. If they wanted to kick Los Poetas out of the league, they would need to present Profe Rafa with logic, evidence, and most of all, irrefutable proof. The middle-aged men took their cleats off and placed the sweaty yellow and orange jerseys back into the duffel bag that housed them. With moist hands, the 12 players used whatever pen, pencils, or markers they borrowed from their children to scribble down words and sentences onto loose white printed paper. After 45 minutes of writing at l'aire libre, sans duster clipboards, the captain relieved his teams of hand cramps and aching lower backs. The center midfielder walked to each one of his players and collected their observations. Based less on what they wrote, but how much white space they covered, he offered a bien hecho, or disapprove bien bueno. The men stood up, wiped their hands, pointed their fingers in every possible direction, and shook their arms the way they shook their legs before a match. Together, the relatives and friends from a small town in Jalisco walked over to Paul's Bar, which served as the league's headquarters and the space for many of the team's post-game drinking sessions, or as they told their wives, mandatory team meetings. The sun was up, but hardly menacing. With a piece of cardboard folded onto itself, Rafa propped the door facing Rush Avenue wide open, allowing the gentle warmth and soft orange to hit the white vinyl floors and ricochet onto the team photos that lined its walls. On opposite corners, the box television and old jukebox served as the only other source of light. The men walked onto the still moist floor, the fabuloso writing to greet them, and proceeded to the bar to find Rafa sipping on an instant Folgers coffee. It was too early for beer, but Rafa hadn't drank for years. He purchased a bar from a gringo named Paul as a defense strategy. Too many players and teams drank on the elementary school field, leaving Tecate bottles lurking in the grass on swings and the slides. The league and bar owner had stopped playing in his early 20s, but his snug shirt and jeans revealed a man dedicated to staying fit. Rafa, the captain said in a firm but non-threatening tone, "The poetas, these escuincles, they have to go. Enough is enough. We present to you here and now at 9:30 on April 27th of the year 1998 our declaration signed by all of us." Rafa took the stack of papers, cleared his throat, and slowly read what he could decipher. Los poetas kiss and thank the grass, as if it is a person worthy of such things. When the other team scores, they clap. They don't care about winning. They are comunistas. This is serious, Rafa told Zapatero as he shuffled the sheets back into place and laid them on the bar. We have rules, and I apply them to everyone equally. Muchachos, I'm going to read every single page, then I'll read the league's laws, then I will announce my decision. The league had no board, no nonprofit status, and no bylaws. Rafa maintained equilibrium by dispensing infractions that everyone found just. If players fought, they would get expelled and banned for 2 games. Repeat offenders were kicked out of the league. Only over time did the league acquire laws, but they were never committed to paper. They lived in the owners' heads and the players' memories. To some degree, all problems were new, but this new problem had a shape whose boundaries Rafa couldn't locate. He didn't mind the young men. The team formerly named Amelio Robles Avila Colectivo de Fútbol, but known to all other teams and referees simply as Los Poetas. They paid their registration fees on time, never complained about officiating or getting scheduled to play an 8-8 game. They tipped well, even though they only drank water and soda, and they pissed inside the urinal. 0 yellow cards, 0 red cards, and 0 fights. They also had 0 wins. Rafa knew that they might never win, but for the first time he was wondering if they even wanted to. They were a team, but why or how remained beyond his understanding. It was before noon, but he needed time to think, so he broke one of the most important league rules. Rafa arranged and then handed 2 buckets of cold beer to Sánchez-Tello, closed the bar's only door, and headed to the office for some privacy. The previous owner was too lazy to take any of his furniture and left his former employee with an industrial 300-pound metal desk. Impossible to move, cold to the touch, but ideal in the case of earthquakes. At least that's what Paul had said. Rafa made it work. Under the large plastic protector, he placed the league's calendars, the season schedule on the left, and the upcoming weekend games on the right. When a player or team called asking about a match 3 months from now, that landed on the same day as their kids' quinceañera or graduation, Rafa was able to pull it up quickly. After each game, he annotated the final score. With roller stick, scissors, and a laminating machine, he made all of the credentials himself right here on this desk. Tucked away on the right corner was a large 3-inch blue binder where Rafa kept the players' contacts, addresses, and emergency phone numbers of family members on both sides of the border. None of these things were of any use to him now. At first, Rafa tried to discipline the staff, to place Zapatlanejo's case in some formation. First, he looked for the passage of time, then for page numbers, and finally for a summary or opening page. These things existed in books and reports, he thought. Slowly, a pattern did emerge. There were actions before, during, or after a game. Kissing the grass, thanking and hugging the ref, not scoring goals, and passing out recipes for lentils on a small strip of paper. Sometimes below or above, or in the same sentence, were interpretations of these literal facts. They hate football. They are against dignity. On a separate sheet of paper, in big, bold, firm letters, he wrote, Zapotlanejo versus Los Poetas, the date and a short summary of the case. Just below in large caps, he gave himself instructions, a pep talk even. Vamos al grano. But the words did not arrive. He put the pen down, slapped the desk with 2 open hands, and stood up and began pacing in a small 8x8 office. A walk turned into a trot, then some leg and arm shaking sit-ups, and 25 consecutive push-ups, a clapping between each one. From the floor, Rafa rolled over to the desk and opened the bottom drawer. Below neatly folded warm-ups and a sweater was a photo album that documented his days as a player. The yellow magnetic overlay safeguarded his trajectory from amateur to semi-professional to early retirement. Above the photograph of La Mago, his mother wrote, La Cuchara's first team. El Gordo, as the kids affectionately called their coach, owned the corner store and invested what he could into the team. Every Sunday, the Balkans sprinted a small exodus, their own little guerrilla scurried off to battle some faraway enemy. Tortillas, milk, gansito, soda, water would have to wait until their return. La Mago took one of 3 paths to Deportivo. Those who had gathered 2 pesos from their parents afforded themselves time away from supervised adults and walked north, crossed the Periférico, and hopped on the bus, whose windshield read Plaza Patria. In his faded green Volkswagen Bug, El Gordo packed 8 players, 2 in the passenger seats, 4 in the back seat, and another 2 in the way back. The less fortunate walked to the Periférico and tried to hitch a ride. Once together again, El Gordo gathered his 11 players, laid their 11 credenciales on the dirt field, and offered some last-minute tactical instructions. In a circle, and with hands touching, they collectively yelled, La playera se suda, somos magos. Everyone played with the safety of a future on the roster. Missed tackles and goals weren't exactly forgiven, but the gravest error one could make was coming off the pitch with a dry shirt. More than the joy of playing with his pals from the block, Rafa remembered the loneliness of leaving them to join Teco's youth academy. The Bermuda grass was pristine, the practice and game jerseys were originals, and Fountain looked expensive. But teammates fought for playing time, coaches demanded perfection, and winning became a welcome relief. He knew Santa Mago claimed him as theirs and that they were proud of him, but his parents thought they would even be more proud of him if he didn't flaunt his success. Every morning, Rafa's mom folded his training pants and sweater and gently tucked them into his back just on top of the tongue of his cleats. On the other side of Periférico, he slowly slipped them on. I think I was going to skip, but I think I'll do it. Next to the photo of smiling children was a different kind of team portrait, a pencil drawn on a white notebook paper. A life-size spoon defended 2 stars and served as a goal. A wolf ran parallel to the sidewalk, and a single horizontal line, a nose attached to it, dribbled the moon. Rafa always liked it, even if he never truly understood its meaning or its creator. Paula lived a few doors down and spent her time reading and making markings in her notebooks from the 2nd floor of her home's balcony. Unlike the other kids, she didn't come down to play, didn't attend the local public school, or spend hours in front of El Gordo's Tindita. Her family members never went to el Norte. The ones that did leave went south to the capital to study art and engineering and other things that he didn't understand. A leaf he came to learn from his brief interaction with Paola was more than a leaf, but it was also just a leaf. Poets lived in this world, but they experienced the game from 100 yards above the pitch and from the perspective of one of the stones that made up the street. There was magnifying clarity in their abstraction. Rafa closed the photo album, stood up, and walked out of his office. Los Poetas remained in the streets of the legal area, a man who had never heard about social arts practice, popular education, mutual aid, or the deep art of listening deeply. And yet, the path forward was clear. Los Poetas would stay in the league, but they would need to embrace the role as underdogs. They would need to learn to lose with dignity and aim for the impossible. Without offering to make an explanation, he announced that Los Poetas were on probation for the rest of the season and that he would serve as their new coach. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Romeo. Nice jersey, by the way. Team BB here. Our next author is George B. Sánchez-Tello, who lives, writes, and teaches in Los Angeles. An award-winning reporter, his work on the beautiful game has been featured in Howler, America's first literary magazine dedicated to football, and Hyphen. A few of tonight's readers have been selected for the annual George Sanchez Old Man Pickup Anthem Prize Mucho Take It Easy Football Club. Welcome, George B. Sanchez.
Thank you, thank you. I found out I would be a father a second time on a Tuesday night. I know it was a Tuesday night because I was on my way to playing a Tuesday night league game.
When my wife told me, my first response was, I'm coaching the team tonight. Sunum is now 6. It didn't occur to me I should have gone home. Renee is still pissed. That's fair. This is the first time I've been in a crowd that would understand that story. All right, I'm going to read an essay that I wrote for Howler during the 2018 tournament, and hopefully if there's time afterwards, I want to offer an afterwards or a reflection. So this essay is entitled El Milagro, la Selección y los Guadalupanos. It was published June 18th of 2018. 15 men gather in a converted garage watching television. Sleeping cots are stacked behind them. Against the opposite wall lay blue 50-gallon plastic bags packed with their belongings. All are homeless. Most are undocumented. And they are watching La Selección Nacional play Alemania. All the men woke this morning inside Dolores Mission, a small church on Los Angeles' east side. The Guadalupanos, as they are known, take refuge in the Guadalupe Homeless Project, which transforms the church nightly into a homeless shelter. Last night, 52 men slept on the pews and cots. Up at 4:45 a.m., breakfast around 5:30 a.m. By 7 a.m., the Guadalupanos are expected to leave to find work. But today is different. Though the Copa Mundial began 3 days ago, today is the first game. With the exception of a few born in the United States, the men are from Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Colombia, France, and India. The Guadalupanos are like El Mundial, they laugh. Every nation represented. Juan Manuel Villegas joked that La Selección needs a miracle. Villegas likens today to the miracle on ice, the 1980 Winter Olympics, where the United States beat the Soviet Union in ice hockey. As the German national anthem plays, Nacho Mazadiego announces, El fútbol es un símbolo de amor y paz. And everyone here, he explains, is a victim of either crime, war, or politics. On the day the Mundial began, the world was made witness for Casa Padre, a former Walmart in Brownsville, Texas, that now holds nearly 1,500 children. Some of those children entered the United States alone. Some arrived with their parents. All separated from family through the Trump administration's zero-tolerance policy. According to reports, the children all have access to soccer fields, foosball tables, and FIFA consoles. Recently, I spent time with women and men at a hiring hall for jornaleros, day laborers, at the Pasadena Community Jobs Center, many of whom are, like the Guadalupanos, raza, immigrant and undocumented. It doesn't take much to start a conversation about La Selección. Victor Aguayo starts with a joke. Vas a documentar la tristeza? You've come to document our sadness. Others have questions for me. ¿Qué es un howler? 10 days earlier, there was romantic hope for La Selección, shadowed by pragmatic fatalism. I am Mexican. I want to be world champion, but I am realistic, Jose Perez said in Spanish. With less than 10 minutes left in the match, the priest checks the score. When he hears, he exclaims, "Que rezar," we have to pray. In the 87th minute, they are singing Celito Lindo in Moscow. The Guadalupanos cheer for Ochoa as he captures the ball and clutches it tightly in the last 30 seconds. When the final whistle blows, the Guadalupanos stand up, briefly applaud, and immediately begin stacking the chairs, clean up the room, and close the garage. A young man says to no one in particular, "Si se pudo." Yes, we did. Juan Manuel looks at me and says, "El milagro." Maybe it was God. But it wasn't a miracle when Chucky, as the Guadalupanos called him, took the pass, cut it inside to his right, and buried it in the net. That was vision and confidence, I think. No matter, the Guadalupanos have cleared out to find work, friends, or otherwise occupy themselves this Sunday. Thank you. I have a couple of minutes. I was thinking about this, a little bit of context. So for the 2018 World Cup assignment, Howler hit up a bunch of writers. The assignment was one writer, one game. The text was due that day. I chose the Germany-Mexico game because I specifically wanted to find a place to put the game back in community, but also situated in historical moment. And unfortunately, much of it is still very present and certainly relevant. I was thinking about this today. Trade out Moscow for DC. Substitute Casa Padre for Adelanto or California City. And if we think about the final ceremony, switch out Putin for Trump. I was also thinking about the hope and the honor between this game versus Germany and last week's versus England. And in both moments, the pride brought. Damn, I didn't expect that. I looked back, sorry. I looked back on the game today, just a few notes. 0-1 Mexico. Lozano scored in the 35th minute, but Germany had 60% possession. I was looking at the lineups. Both teams played in a 4-2-3-1. Neuer was in goal. In the midfield, Kroos, Muller, with a substitution for Marco Reus. Timo Werner, now with San Jose. On the Mexican squad, up top, Chicharito. In the midfield, Vela, Lozano, Ayun, Guardado, and H.H. Herrera. And of course, in goal, Ochoa. The group was Germany, Mexico, Sweden, South Korea, Mexico and Sweden advancing. And then I was thinking about the final today, after France beat Croatia. And I remember the award ceremony. It was in the rain. Putin had an aide hold an umbrella over him. All the FIFA folks were standing in the rain. And Macron stood there soaked. I remember his suit, ecstatic for the victory that afternoon. Anyway, thank you all for your time.
Thank you for sharing that, George. Next writer is Jose Oseguera, a writer of poetry, short fiction, and literary nonfiction. His writing has been featured or is forthcoming in the Waterstone, Pinch, and Sonora Review. He's the author of the poetry collections The Milk of Your Blood and This House is Only a Nest. Round of applause for Jose Oseguera.
Thank you, Ivan. Thank you, everyone at Beyond Baroque for everybody who was involved in setting this up. Thank you for inviting me. Soccer or football to a Mexican is more than just an obsession or even a religion. It's an existential crisis. Hugo Sanchez, last stand. Not even a galaxy of flies can pull the Earth's spin the other way. For Jean-Pierre Reda. 1. Coin flip. Sunday belonged to God. As we gathered around the warm glow of the television, its light and high fidelity resounded in every chamber of the house. That's when belief struck religion and ignited into fervor. I wondered if this was it. The time we'd get to see men wearing last names ending in AS, EZ, OS, avatars of famine, win a game that emulated war, and give our bootleg ambitions the ability to brag in the schoolyard and the water cooler about our supremacy in a country that wasn't ours. My uncles threw their dress shirts and ties on the couch and the thin diezmillo meat over the grill, hushed by an audience of white coals beneath. The Mexico-Norway soccer pregame was a time full of faith, where we sought the lie, the flutter, the high before first kisses. My uncles preached to me the gospel of Hugo Sanchez. Miracles performed in the 80s, the way he would hoist himself off the grass to execute goals so spectacular that Europeans enshrined one as Señor Gol. With him, they were sure Mexico could avoid acting like the subjects of a blooper reel and deploy onto the field like guerreros jaguar in tight formations. Best of all, their indigestion-colored uniforms hadn't pierced through soft tissue yet. The tortilla, still a little raw from the center, rose impatient off the griddle to meld with salsa water and meat juice, just as families of families agreed to support one tricolored banner for 90 minutes. A perfect bite of sweet heat, fat, and the lingering citrus from savoring a dream you couldn't wait to fall asleep for. The flies buzzed outside the window, erratic from missing their chance to land on the meat when it was still outside. They stared as we hovered around our cubicle antenated oracle. One of my uncles sat so still, a good swat with a pull leaf skimmer might have left him flummoxed. Others paced back and forth with no place to land. 2. Throw-in. That's a great point, Chuck, said one of the color commentators, seconds before the start of the game. Sanchez seemed to float towards midfield, his chilango jerry curl, the white number 9 stitched on emerald polyester, radiant as a winged sun god. But I wonder if Mexico's fast, flashy attackers, Hugo Sanchez in particular, can penetrate the notoriously stingy Norwegian defense. The food's almost ready, said Uncle Daniel and muted the TV. Let us pray, dear Heavenly Father. Look at this fucking idiot, just sitting there eating flies. Another uncle cut in. The chairman of the No Prayer faction. Uncle Daniel kept one eye open, not to scold, but to see what the insult was aimed at. We ask that you bless these elements, Uncle Daniel continued, both eyes on the screen. We ask that they fortify our bodies and... I hope these 10 motherfuckers find Hugo the way Jesus found his apostles. I wanted to add, but I said, si, señor. 5 minutes of the first half had passed, and the Mexican players were a chaotic spread on the field like raw pinto beans on a table. Sanchez, the 5-time goal-scoring king of Spain, stood out as a lone pebble that slipped past the cook's eye, hidden in the bean's softness until your molars cracked it. By the time Uncle Daniel said, Amen, half the table had already drifted back to the screen. Then Hugo kicked the ball into the air. There you go, said one of my uncles. But the 6-foot pale-legged Norwegian mountains refused to part. We needed Mexica ex machina, yet every Sanchez touch went backward, or he flopped for a free kick. His new position was on the grass, his green jersey dissolving into it until Hugo himself faded from play. Pinche vato, loco, said another one of my uncles, accompanied by a choir of teeth-sucking and lip trills. I knew he was gonna fuck up. 3. Offside. The commotion interrupted the commentator's play-by-play, and the flies scattered, too afraid that the humans would return to shoo them away and reclaim their banquet of refuse. Once the white noise of the broadcast resumed, so did the buzzing of their wings. They had found a way into a venue in which to play their music, their games of keep away. White creatures with access to fresh bolillo, grilled scallion, and guacamole were obsessed with live projected bodies running across a screen. Was beyond the dissection of a fly. Have you ever noticed how some of these guys are really cute? One of my aunts said. God damn it. Shut up and let us watch the game, said her husband. My aunt blotted out his vinegar with the honey of players' tight butts in flapping shorts, their legs, that sweet spot where the kneecap nuzzled against the quadriceps to form 3 scoops of café con leche. Meanwhile, the Norwegians let the clock freeze in their icy defense. Hugo flapped his arms like wings made of thread, his teammates wilting in the 96-degree heat. No through passes. No deceptive touches in the box. Aren't you the golden child? My fingernails insisted on the flesh beneath my knuckles. Save yourself and us. The referee's whistle was Sanchez's true rival, not the Norwegians, not even his age. The trill of that instrument would mark the death of the game and his career, the end of a man who loved his country so much he agreed to splay himself under the swatter just to prove to himself and every Mexican ever born in history that he was too good to be on this team. That if they got crushed, it wasn't because of him. At the death, Norway finally scored a goal. Can't we just get better players next time? I said. Uncle Daniel patted my shoulder, his mustache spreading like sunrise. It's not that simple, son, he said. You gotta be born in a country to play for that country. 4. Out of play. Sweat streamed down Hugo's face like drops of blood. The camera lingered on his slumped body. His sweat slid down my back too, wet from that day forward. He was our Icarus, a man who had engineered wings out of meringue and feathers of swap meat gold to escape his captivity, but not his destiny. His rise was like his fall, every bit as spectacular as it was terrifying. See that guy right there? Uncle Daniel said, lifting his coffee mug. Ese way was the best of us. Then why couldn't he score one of those amazing goals today? I said. The ones you told me about. Uncle sipped, wincing as if swallowing the thorns from the crown he himself had placed upon Hugo's head. It's because we're Mexican, Uncle said. I was tall enough to see the dried milk halo at the base of the porcelain. I felt the heavy cup of Mexican soccer fandom pressed to my lips. Even in Gethsemane, there's a 1-drink minimum. The flies celebrated over a smear of seeds, discarded white marbling tortilla crusts, and cheese crumbles tousled in brown paste. Their zizzing, oblivious to victory or defeat, found silence in the remains of our feast, a sanctuary to entrust that which they cared for most. Uncle Daniel placed his hand on the back of my head, eyes fixed on the screen. Now, just watch the game, he said. Just watch the game.
Thank you, Jose. Throwback with Hugo Sanchez. So who are you all rooting for tomorrow? Norway's out there. England. With your Beatles shirt, I was like, oh, that's kind of betrayal right there.
Don't worry after though.
Oh!
There you go, yeah. Norway.
Anyone but England.
Nobody but England. Argentina. Nada, ¿verdad?
It's sensitive. Very sensitive.
Yeah, no, I think people are ready for a new era, new other names in the mix. You know, Ronaldo's out, so that's like, you know, and but yeah, Messi's still there, and it's the golden child, so we'll see. But yeah, I'll be tuning in tomorrow. And then I hope it continues because next year is the Women's World Cup as well. So I hope all the breweries and all the bars play it just like we did with this World Cup. So, you know, that should just bring as much excitement, like, honestly. So, yeah. And if we have, 6 writers here, we could have, that's already leaning to the half of the team that we can make. Once upon a time, I was a goalie, so I definitely, y'all have a goalie. Yeah, are any porteros here in the house? 'Cause- no? Damn. Okay, well, I'm the one, yeah. I've stopped some shots with my face. Duele, pero. Okay, and now to bring it home, we have Yago Cura, a public librarian in South Central LA, moderates a monthly reading series in Nipseyland, CD8, named after the first Black librarian hired in LA, Miriam Matthews. He's also the owner of the SoCal small press, Inchas Press, whose newest title is Mike Sonskin's Traces, Places, Faces. Yago lives in Torrance with his family, and his latest piece of nonfiction, For the Love of Football, Not FIFA, appeared in SoCal Public Square in May of 2026. Please welcome Yago Cura.
Otra vez, thank you very much to Beyond Baroque. Thank you to Yvonne. Thank you to Jimmy. Thank you to Genesis. And the man in the cabin right there, recording and making sure that all the levels are great. Folks, I appreciate you. This has been a great program. I've laughed. I've kind of gotten verklempt. I've been through it. I, like everyone can affirm here, I'm still learning about Fútbol, even though I grew up in it. My dad's a Boca Juniors fan, and I had to, contend with that and grow up with that. The good thing about that is that, like, he's like a football encyclopedia. So, like, it's a great learning experience for me. He makes me learn about, he'll name players, and I'm like, what? One of those players was Alfredo Di Stefano. And that's really what got me kind of writing these odes. In the bookstore, there's a book called Odas a Futbolistas. I have a homie in Miami. We came up with like a fantasy league of football, like a football squad, a fantasy football squad. So I picked 23 people from history, and he did as well. And we wrote odes to them. And so there's people like Pele, Neymar. I mean, there's all the greats there, right? So including Alfredo Di Stefano. This is Ode to Alfredo Di Stefano. The blonde arrow, as if you were an Action Comics character, like the Football Phantom or Osprey Rubio, looming over your territory like an insurgent moon, paddling up the Amazon with motorboard feet, clearing the pampas of Peterman and highway pirates, fighting jungle crime, greedy loggers, and talisman traffickers. But I've also seen you riding through las calles madrileñas on the back of a convertible, an enormous trophy in your smile, anointing the Spanish townsfolk with sepia halos and handkerchiefs that smell of gancha sweat. Messiah of healing it in, progenitor of the Cruyff turn, Di Stefano built the house of El Madrid in the 50s after having bricked the shit out of the Porteño leagues. Di Stefano is ranked among the best 4 futbolistas of the 20th. That the other 3 fall over themselves praising him probably proves Di Stefano is some kind of ancient, humble twat. El Madrid's named one of its stadiums after you, and surely has some creepy shit planned with your ashes. But what a gallant panther stride. Di Stefano galloped at his ease and could crank it suavely with infinitesimal pianissimo, or ratchet it up to a combustible intensity which might only express itself in the visible light spectrum as breakneck whiplash in the gullet of the Nets. Bro, I need some glasses. Surely his signature move, that speed come over joint where he mags defensemen intent on lunge, or maybe one of those dastardly heel passes he pulled out of the air like ripe ocular utilities. So then this got me going on like other players. Thank you. So and please watch the clips. He's fucking sick. He's sick. So that led me to other ones. This is Ode to Garrincha. Santo rodillas quebradas, Santo Botafogo, Obispo de avispas, we seek your assurance Our youth squads prefer to play rather than win. Please accept this Brazilian magic decimating Soviet machines, this love of play of the beautiful game as if it were prerogative. Accept this Bobby Brown diligence of closing down bars and living out in villages where everyone knows where to find you on Sundays. Accept these busted ass knees, one which goes out, genu valgum, when it should be carving in, and one which goes in, genu verum, when it clearly should be carving out and upcycling that shit. Upcycle it until it's able to outmaneuver normal legs, outleg the spread, per se. Santo Cirrhosis, Santo Sentinel de Elsa, Cazador de Pajaritos, guide our hands as we ravage the 1958 Russian World Cup team, doomed to withstand Chocolate Edison and smooth-ass Garincha de Barge. Take the mentality of a child and annihilate it until it comes out on the other side, until you depants the forwards interviewing the press and television reporters. A pure pace of playing football by the moon's fragile light. We're staying out drinking in your village until it's time for practice. We're scheming on the rival team's bevy of girlfriends, primas, and aunties with that fluoride in your brain smile, that sexy scimitar smile, Garincha in your heart, always a motley crew of Labrador children just beginning to show signs of scanning the field, of intricate pass and play, of playing against the space in the space. Because Jennifer Doyle wrote about Dracula Suarez, I have an ode to Dracula Suarez. I need to read that one to y'all, okay? I'm sorry. I love Suarez. And he's so good and so evil. It's amazing. It's like when my kid, I have a 7-year-old who's watching Star Wars now, and he's asking me about like the Empire. And I'm like, I think it's narcotic to be evil. I get it, you know, he's seeing that now. It's really interesting. This is Ode to Dracula Suarez. We love you because you will do whatever to win, even if that means demeaning yourself from means. We love you because you are the horse that bucks and debrains an heiress that's escaped with blueprints for the star blowing up stars. We love you because you are our father's mother's father, a decoy in the blind that doesn't know when to shut up, stop quacking, relent, cállate la puta boca. Suarez, te amamos porque you are a Darth Vader of incisors, viejo. We love you as periodontal peronis. Like, ¿quién te manda darle un jab a González Ibra in the pinche World Cup in the penalty box, only to be detected on closed circuit like host? Who has sent you to elude the linemen and referees? ¿Quién le pudo detonar some equanimity a este Uruguayan thug Euclidean? And what about those ridiculous things you were alleged to have muttered to Evra? And what about what drove you to bite Bacall in the shoulder while you stormtrooped for Ajax in the Eredivisie? Loco, don't they have Law and Order reruns in your neck of the woods to learn you some forensics? A salubrious bite on the skin of another can really funeticize your aura. Luisito Porfi, deja de morder a tus oponentes. Don't you see the passion has no mandible like that of a colossus, that droves of goals for Liverpool make you hungry like the wolf, terse like the vindictive football pharaoh, recondite like a subcutaneous gopher, a yoker of a spoiled spurt, a Uruguayan millionaire dreaming of grinding the shoulder out of existence, the overbite into a sort of circulation only the infirm can respond to. But what might you take for uncontrollable gnashing, gnawing, gnarlying? What side effects are conjured by the manic carnivore overstepping his reach? And look, I am not a fan of Neymar. I like to see Neymar cry. I'm going to be honest. I think a lot of people like to see Neymar cry. But that doesn't mean he doesn't deserve an ode. This is I've never done. I'm going to end with my ode to Neymar. Now that the world has completely ended, now that a whole Teuton of revenants have burst into the Vatican and poo-pooed on the Pope's Holy Roman Ottoman. Now that a suicidal lucha libre operative has kneed you in the small of your back with super malicious intent, now that the New World Soccer Order has been raised to embers by a powerful Mannschaft of Tours, now Neymar might just be too easy to foul, all but 50 pounds of him, but that still don't make it gravy. Besides, when you abuse him, that just eggs his octane into gross refinement mode, which in turn enables him to telescope femurs and deploy dorsal finesse fins. Now, a kid like that, all gallop, all aerosol of indefatigable speed, now as he Yosemite Sam's imaginary guns to a naughty god, or sambas with the corner flag, even I am thinking where to crack him in his smart-ass shins. Now, as his predilection for peroxide turns peripatetic amongst the swarthy turned iconic, now as his bangs take on a life of their own, now as he pops his collar as if he were an overzealous b-boy gopher, now as rake skinny is in vogue amongst millionaires, now as Neymar adroits like a garden snake lit on fire by molten gold. Oh, how he seems to be scolding the heavens for making him so dreamy. Now you try to pin some D on this Brazilian Peter Pan, most Turk of Turks, ubiquitous know-nothing, with a different McMansion for every day of the week. Now you catch up to this Brazuca Bronco, this wildebeest with a mutant passport, this latchkey kid with mother-loving keys to the largest stadium in Europe. Folks, thank you for coming through. Thank you.
Round of applause for our thank you all for coming to this amistoso. That was great. See you all. And football. Yeah, let's take a picture and let's plan for all the to get the riders into the field and do a match. Like that would be awesome. So let's do it. All right, let's take a photo and enjoy reception that we have outside and browse through our books. See you soon. Thank you.
Oh, there's scenes to there's scenes to Memo Ochoa. There's scenes to Zidane, the Palestinian national football team, and to Mbappe in the bookstore. And Bosnia. So all scenes in the bookstore, and they're all for sale. They all go to the wonderful people at Beyond.
Oh, thank you. Gracias. Yeah. None for slides. Yeah, let's do it. What do you think, Jimmy?
What do you think, Jimmy?
What is it? What is it scheduled for?
19th at noon.
The 19th.
Yeah.
Sunday.
Oh, Sunday. Sorry.
Sunday.
All right, poets, let's take a photo. Real quick.
Where? In here? Or out there?
Maybe out there, I guess. Yeah, let's go.
Dude, you cut your hair. Am I just catching on?
That's been a while, right?
I haven't seen that. Well, okay, that hasn't been that long.
I cut my hair all the time.